Good morning, everybody. Let's start. We have with us this morning Alejandra Morgade and Alicia Escarabrisk de Montevideo, from Montevideo, Uruguay. They belong to Alianza Cultural, Uruguay, Estados Unidos. Alejandra Morgade is a teacher educator and has been an Alianza teacher for 9 years. She holds a teacher training course diploma, a TESOL diploma, and a Delta Module 1 certificate. She teaches adults from basic to advanced levels, business communications, and online courses. She's involved in test development and material design. Alicia Scarabrisk is a teacher educator and has been an Alianza teacher from 1990 to 1995, and from 2014 to the present time as well. She holds a teacher training course diploma and works with children, teenagers, and adults in programs such as CEIBAL in English, Access Program, and from basic to advanced courses. And she also works in material design. Welcome, ladies. The stage is all yours. And just to anyone who would like to join us, remember that you can do so through the chat, also joining us here in camera, so you can ask your questions out loud and you can interact here with our guests. Welcome.
Thank you, Didi, for this nice introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandra, and together with Alicia, we are teachers educators at the Alianza Uruguay Estados Unidos in Montevideo, Uruguay. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you are enjoying these wonderful conferences. And well, we would like to thank Rilo Andes, Change Peru, Rachel, Cristina, Jota, and Didi for your support and help throughout this process. And of course, the Alianza for encouraging us to submit this proposal. Well, our idea of this presentation is to recall and understand the importance of using copyrighted materials. We do believe that this copyright session is clearly needed and important for our community. Here, for example, at the Alianza, we have been always on the cutting edge of copyright policies. We are material designers for our face-to-face and virtual classes, online courses, test activities, and on our virtual campus, and more. So we do foster academic integrity. And we think it's a very important topic for our community. So we are going to start this presentation with a Mentimeter. So we kindly ask you to go to Menti and use the code in the screen, or you can scan the QR code on the screen as well. We will have 2 questions for you to share with us. So, Didi, maybe you can write the code down in the chat so that I can present the Menti.
Already there. And also, make sure that you guys can double click. Remember, you can double click on the presentation when it's on so you can see it bigger. So it's bigger than our faces.
Great, thank you. Okay. Well, the first question we have for you is it easy for you to find resources for your classes? And you have 3 options. Very easy, easy at times. Well, let's wait for more answers. Okay. So very easy, easier at times, and not easy at all. Okay, do we have some other answers? Mm. Okay, well, it seems that for most of you, you find it easy at times. Okay, thank you for sharing your answers. And now I have another question for you. Okay. Okay, the second question is, how identified do you feel with these statements? The first statement says, I choose teaching materials I come across. The second one is, I always resort to the same teaching materials. And the third one, I pay attention to using reliable teaching materials. Wow. Well, a lot of people pay attention to using reliable teaching materials. That's great. Okay. Okay, do we have more answers? No. All right. Okay, people, thank you for sharing your answers. I'm going to go back to the presentation. Well, and this is our agenda for today. First of all, define what copyright is. We are going to see some main legal concepts to understand this presentation. We are going to be talking about a convention. It's called Berne Convention. We are going to talk about plagiarism in education. This is a very important topic. We are going to see some resources inside the ESL, EFL community. We are going to present some different scenarios. Then we're going to share some do's and don'ts. And finally, we're going to share some links and demonstrations that we find useful for our community, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is to define copyright. So according to the legal dictionary, copyright is the legal right that gives the owner of a creative work the right to say how other people can use it. And by creative work, we mean books, movies, pictures, sculptures, songs, paintings, and more. So when someone copies or reproduces a work without permission, it is called infringement. So the use of these materials protected by copyright is essential to the learning process. Educational resources exist in all formats and that are recognized as works in copyright law. Copyright, or the author's rights, is a legal term, as I have said. We use to describe the right the creators have over their works. And the term work is used in the copyright context to refer to a wide range of intellectual creation. Some of those in the screen, but also some other examples of works covered by copyrights are computer program, databases, advertisement, maps, technical drawings, and so on. And copyright protects two types of rights. The first one are the economic rights, which those who allowed right owners to have a financial reward for the use of their works by others. And the other rights are the moral rights that allow authors and creators to take certain actions to preserve and protect the link with their work. So we would like to share with you some copyright infringement cases around the world. We are going to focus this presentation in education, but we want to show, different kind of creative work, different cases in creative work copyright infringement. Maybe you are familiar with some of them. The first one is the Statue of Liberty stamp. You know that the Statue of Liberty was a gift from the French government to the American government. And something that happens was that in 2010, a stamp design was issued by the US Postal Service and mistook a Las Vegas replica. I don't know if you know that in Las Vegas there is a replica of the Statue of Liberty, of the real Statue of Liberty. So the post office mistook this replica, and well, the sculptor argued that this version was different in a lot of ways, and well, therefore, a federal court ruled that the post office must pay the replica sculptor $3.5 million for violating his copyright. Another case in the music environments is Ed Sheeran versus Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was an American singer, songwriter, writer, and recorder producer. And a company which owns part of the copyright of Gaye's song, Let's Get It On is the name of the song. They claim that Ed Sheeran lifted a variety of musical elements from this song, including, for example, melody, harmony, and rhythmic components for his 2014 single, Thinking Out Loud. Well, and the third case, and it has to do with our community, a school in Houston, there were some colorful study guides from Austin area company. And well, these guides apparently were particularly helpful. So the principal of this high school bought some of these study guides and made copies and then distributed them to the students. But he didn't notice, or maybe yes, we don't know, that the study guides includes an express statement on the bottom that said, copying this material is strictly prohibited. Oops. Okay, well, the idea was to show you different of these cases in the different fields. Well, and to understand a little bit more about how to avoid this copyright infringement, it is important to be familiar with some main legal concepts that we are going to present. The first one is infringe. Infringe means copying another person's work in violation of law. Okay, so this happens when someone copies another person's works, violates or breaks a law, an agreement, or a regulation. The second concept is right of quotation. This means citing your source. So when you quote a source, you use the exact words the author of the source uses, surrounded by quotation marks, and include the author using an in-text citation. So giving credit or citing a source means that you show whose ideas you used in your writing, for example. You usually do this in the text and at the end of your paper in a bibliography. People and journals that cite are called references, and a bibliography is a list at the end of your writing that has detailed information about them. Okay, plagiarism. Well, plagiarism means not acknowledging source material used in your work. In fact, the actual author can bring a lawsuit for appropriation of his or her work against the plagiarist and recover the profits. Normally, plagiarism is not a crime, but it can be used as the basis of a fraud charge or copyright infringement if prior creation can be proven. And then we have licensee, which is requesting permission from copyright author holder. A license granted by the holder of a copyright on literary or artistic work gives the license holder a limited right to produce, sell, or distribute the work. And lastly, we have the fair use. This means making legal use of copyrighted material without permission of payment. And I'm going to stop here a little bit because fair use allows limited use of copyrighted material without permission from the copyright holder for different purposes. The educational fair, so our use, apply to material use in educational institutions and for educational purposes only. So, however, you must consider the portion of the copyrighted work you use. If you have doubts about whether the use you want to make is not fair, you can ask for permission from the author holder. Okay. Well, the Berne Convention. There are a lot of conventions and treaties around the world that they have to do with copyright because this is a broad topic and a little tiny thing can become in a huge thing. But this is a special copyright treaty known as the Berne Convention for the Protection of Literary and Artistic Works. It was adopted in 1986 and up to date it's signed by 179 countries, and this treaty deals with the protection of works and the rights of their authors. So it provides creators such authors, musicians, poets, painters, etc., with the means to control how their works are used, by whom, and on what terms. There are differences in copyright law across the countries, okay? In our case, Uruguay is a member of this Berne Convention, so you should investigate about yours. And the treaty states that if copyright exists in one of these countries, then this copyright is valid in all member countries who are signatories of this convention. There are some exceptions for education and teaching inside this convention. When we talk about education and teaching, the exception only applies under the following conditions. The first one is that the purpose of the use is non-commercial. The first factor notes that one consideration is for not-profit educational purposes. The second notes that where practical, there should be sufficient acknowledgement of authorship of the work. And the third one the use of the material is fair, but not all educational uses are fair uses. Otherwise, textbooks, for example, wouldn't cost so much. Okay? Well, now we are going to move to plagiarism in education. So it is important to understand plagiarism, identify plagiarism, and prevent plagiarism in our community. Plagiarism is using someone else's words instead of your own. So when students write something for a discussion or for an assignment, they are expected to write with their own words. They can incorporate information from external sources into their writings, but they must cite the source of the information. I mean, they have to give credit to the author. Academic integrity is taken very seriously in our community, and plagiarism is not allowed, and teachers are required to report incidents of plagiarism. Okay. Well, so in order to avoid plagiarism, it is best to fully understand first the different ways in which plagiarism can occur. So the first one we have is direct plagiarism. Direct plagiarism occurs when a student, for example, copies sentences or paragraphs that someone else wrote and uses them without quotation marks or without citing the source. Directly plagiarizing could mean copying and pasting from an article on the internet, from a book or from a magazine, or even from a friend or from a classmate. The second type that we have is mosaic plagiarism, and this occurs when a student borrows phrases from a source to gather information from different sources without using quotation marks. So it also occurs when a student finds synonyms for the author's language, but keeps the same general structure and meaning of the original. Then we have self-plagiarism. This may sound strange, but it's also to plagiarize yourself. For example, if you submit a paper that you wrote for another class, you are committing plagiarism, self-plagiarism. So to avoid this, just make sure that you always write original work for your assignments and that you don't recycle previous work that you have already written before. Well, and the last one is accidental plagiarism. Many instances of plagiarism are those in which the students doesn't mean to do anything dishonest, but if you don't keep track of the resources you use while researching, you might forget to cite those references when you or your students write the paper. So while this may be an accident, it is still plagiarism, and you could still face strict consequences for forgetting to cite the sources. So summarizing, direct plagiarism is rewriting an entire work verbatim without citation. Mosaic plagiarism is borrowing phrases and without citing source. Self-plagiarism is using pieces of entire works or entire works that a student has already submitted without citation. And accidental plagiarism is an intentional direct mosaic or paraphrase without citation. Okay, well, and how can we prevent plagiarism? There are a number of different ways to formally cite sources in academic works. There are also different styles, guides, including, for example, the Model Language Association, MLA, and the American Psychological Association, APA, which are really easy and accessible online, okay, to use. And for the purpose of avoiding plagiarism, the key is simply to make sure sources are clear cited one way or another. And how these apps or checkers identify plagiarism? Well, plagiarism checkers technology compares, for example, the document to a huge database of sources, which include books, magazines, articles, websites, as well as student papers, and these that have previously been submitted. So there is like a huge database of resources. It detects where citations are missing. It can recognize similarities in a sentence or a paragraph, even if the words are not 100% identical. And not every similarity is really plagiarism, but the reports allows the teacher to check each similarity, especially if the percentage is high. So if it looks like plagiarism has been committed, they will investigate further. Plagiarism is not only an issue for students. We know that there have been many high-profile plagiarism scandals and accusation of plagiarism, and can have serious legal or political consequences. In the academic world, the consequences of plagiarism depends on how badly the students plagiarize and whether it's believed to be accidental or not. So it is important. We suggest you talk to students about plagiarism and your expectation. Talk about the consequences of plagiarism, okay? That, for example, they could be given a lower grade, they could fail the course, or face a disciplinary action from the school or the education institution. And that in repeated cases, they might be suspended, for example. Give them practice in correctly citing their sources. So insist on that. Require that they use recent sources, and avoid maybe assigning the same project each year. Okay, so for all these reasons, it's very important to avoid plagiarism. Well, now I leave you with Alicia with the second part of our presentation.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to be here in this conference, and I hope that you are enjoying the same that we are doing. Okay, I'm going to share my presentation now. Okay. Well, so I will be talking about some resources that in our EFL community, we teachers or material designers most commonly use. So as you can see in the image, we use web pages, songs, worksheets, apps, videos, books, pictures, of course, games. We use articles, we use trailers. From time to time, we can also use some CDs, even though it's not so common nowadays. In what different scenarios do we use these resources? We have all used different worksheets in our classrooms to complement our textbooks. Pictures are an essential element in the design of our slides, for virtual classes, in tests, in handouts, or in our course platforms. Choosing an attractive image makes a big difference. What's an English class without a song, a nice song that reflects the topic that we have discussed, or to help students practice the language in a different way? How many times do we share videos with our students, from more specific language videos to movie trailers or music videos. We all share articles or excerpts from articles, not only in the classroom, but also in online assignments or for tests. Never forget that there's a whole community of teachers out there just like you, and everyone struggles from time to time with a lesson plan. Let's explore where we can find reliable resources for all the different scenarios we have previously mentioned. As for worksheets, there are some of these pages, that let you use their materials freely. They are all different and it depends on what you're looking for. When you look for these materials, look for a footer that states that the materials can be used in class and that permission is granted to be reproduced. As for videos, well, extracts from YouTube videos can provide valuable input for our students' learning. The terms and conditions of use on the YouTube website state that the videos are downloadable when you have a premium account, so you can download videos and playlists to watch offline when you aren't connected to the internet. You can download videos to watch offline using YouTube or YouTube Music and watch auto-downloaded videos in the YouTube Kids app if these apps are available in your location and you're signed in with your YouTube Premium account. The same happens with Netflix, that lets you download movies and trailers and watch this content inside the app. Maybe you know this page, movie segments to assess grammar goals. It contains a series of movie segments and activities to assess and practice grammar points through fun and challenging exercises, and new activities are posted regularly. In ESL's video, for example, you can find free quizzes, lessons, and online conversations, classes for English language learners. Regarding songs, another platform that is Spotify lets you download music and listen to it inside the app, okay? Lyrics training, I use it a lot with my teenage students. With lyric trainings, you can find a fun and challenging way to have students work with a song at their own pace. Basically, it's fill in the blanks in an interactive way, and you can do it during lab time or upload the assignment in your course platform for students to work at home with it. Okay. Regarding books, well, there may be many other web pages, but here I brought two examples. Project Gutenberg and Library of Congress offer books for free, so you can find any kind of materials that you want your students to read. From EPUBs to Kindle ebooks, you can download them or read them online, okay? Well, pictures. These are some of the pages in which you can find beautiful free images for your classes, to illustrate your handouts, for your tests, for your slides, for virtual classes. Pixabay, Unsplash, Pexels are only 3 of them, but there are many more, okay? You have to check that the images that you're using are free. To find free images in Google, you have to go to Google Images, then you look for tools, then usage rights, and then Creative Commons licenses. But that doesn't mean that you can use all of them. No, you have to look for the ones that say CC0, that is a Creative Commons public domain. Okay, you can copy them and modify them for personal or commercial use without asking for permission or attribution required. And as for articles, well, we have, for example, VOA, the Smithsonian, and American English at State, the webpage that Nabila and Sandra mentioned yesterday. That's a resource, not only for articles, but for many other materials and resources. But regarding articles, they help educators find resources for teaching and learning English at a foreign language, exploring American culture, and encouraging conversation within the global EFL community. And finally, Google Scholar provides a simple way to search for scholarly literature. Okay? Well, here you can see all the links to the different resources that I have previously mentioned. As I have said, there are many more. So we suggest that you explore, that you ask other teachers, share in your community, and remember that we are all in this together. Let's review the do's when using copyrighted materials. So remember, it's very important to use royalty-free materials. You have to be aware of who owns the material that you are using. You will need to check the copyright on them before you use them. Cite your source. A citation is the way you tell your readers that certain material in your work came from another source. It also gives your readers the information necessary to find that source again, including information about the author, the title of the work. Ask permission to the author if needed. Whenever you decide to directly quote, excerpt, or reproduce someone else's work in your own, whether it's a book, a blog, a magazine, article, or something else, you have to consider whether or not it's necessary to seek explicit legal permission from the work's author, creator, or owner. And finally, you have to comply with fair use. As Alejandra mentioned earlier, if you have determined that the use you want to make is not a fair use, you must ask for permission from the copyright holder. Let me show you some examples of royalty-free materials, free sources, pages, and apps. You can identify the footers that state that the permission is granted, that is photocopiable, or that even though all rights are reserved, it can be photocopied and used in class. Let's see the don'ts, okay, when using copyrighted materials. Remember, don't use materials without any copyright reference. Check the kind of materials that shows that it's free to use. Don't make photocopies unless they are photocopiable. Okay, check for this footer on the worksheets that you are using. Don't make copies of consumable books, workbooks, booklets. Don't alter your colleagues' work. If you are sharing materials in an institution, for example, if you're sharing presentations or any kind of work that is designed by somebody else and you can use it, well, always make a copy of it and then edit your own copy. No, don't alter someone else's work. And I'm talking about Google Slides, Drive documents, spreadsheets, etc. And here, some examples of a handout, for example, that states that all the rights are reserved, so it cannot be used, okay? You can also see a video that cannot be reproduced because of copyright claim. And remember one more time that copying books is illegal, okay? Regarding the useful links and tools for plagiarism, for citation, and for fair use, here we brought just a few, but there are many more, okay? Regarding plagiarism, there are a number of ways teachers can figure out if their students are plagiarizing. These tools help ensure that the text is original and is correctly cited. You can verify the quality of your writing to make sure that it's the original content. And here you have Q-Text and CopyLeaks. Regarding citing tools, these citation tools help you organize, manage, and format citations for your research. Just two examples, but as I said, there are some more. Cite This For Me and BibMe, okay? And I want to mention the APA citation style is the style of documentation of sources used by the American Psychological Association. These citation styles is used mainly in the social sciences as well as in education and other fields. And you can find free APA generators online. You will see our bibliography, how we have used this APA citation style. Regarding fair use, we have this tool that is called a Fair Use Evaluator, and it collects, organizes, and archives the information that you might need to support a fair use evaluation. Well, here just some screenshots, so you can then go on the website, on the internet, and investigate the plagiarism tools, Qtext, and CopyLeaks. Okay, we suggest that you explore, find what works for you, and ask other colleagues as well. Then we have the citing tools, the ones that we mentioned. Here we have Cite This For Me and Beep Me. And below you can see the APA citation style example. Okay, this is how it looks, and I generated it online. Finally, we have the fair use tool, the fair use evaluator. Okay, in our presentation you can check a tutorial that lets you know how to use it and how to check that the resource that you are using is complying with fair use. Okay, but like I said, you have to investigate, you have to share, you have to work with what makes you feel more comfortable. Okay, so now we would like to hear from you. So we would like to maybe we ask you to share one idea or one tip that you take from this session, or maybe one resource that you are already using, or one tip that you want to share with us. Okay, so feel free to unmute and share with us. Okay.
Feel free to join us here on stage if you want to ask your question out loud. I know sometimes typing takes too long, so we have room here. We have 5 spots, so you can join us. And if not, you can just type it over there. Remember that we also have the handout that has been pinned by our wonderful Rachel Martin up there on the upper right corner above the chat. So download it so you can have all these resources that we're getting to. And if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to join us, please. We have Rosana Maria de Sacampos. So she's saying, there are many handouts in English on the internet that aren't appropriated. I always check them before I download them.
Absolutely, yes, that's very important. Good, Rosanna. Well, so this is our bibliography. We are using the APA citation style, so you can check all our bibliography. And finally, we want to thank Rilo Andes, Change Peru, and of course the Alianza Uruguay-Estados Unidos for giving us the opportunity to present, okay, for encouraging us to present, and for always letting us grow. And of course, Didi, thank you so much for being so nice with us.
Thank you, Didi. You're welcome.
Jota, Rachel, and
Christina.
Everybody around.
Yeah.
Christina.
Thank you all, and thank you for joining us, people.
Okay, have a great day and enjoy the rest of the
conference.
And especially our colleague Lucia Pin with her great presentation.
Yes.
Okay, have a great day.